The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome. This is Arty Gluzman, Arty G, Global Recruiters, Global Career Advisors, with the Art of Career Growth podcast and show this evening. I am so pumped up, excited for everyone to be a part of this venture and path with me. I want to start off with talking a little bit about my background, how this all came about, why I've decided to move forward in this direction, and we'll talk about various other pieces of information I'm going to be talking about this evening. By the way, also, this is on Armed Radio podcast. I'll be able to give you the information at the end of the show. So thank you very much, Armed Radio. And as an international recruiter and career advisor for 20 plus years, my story a little bit starts off with immigrating to the United States at the age of 8, 1979, with my family, my mom, dad, brother. Absolutely zero English, and that's important for me to share with you guys because obviously a lot of us are immigrants to this country, and having gone through that experience has put me on the path that I've been on for the 48 years that I've been alive on planet Earth. So we came to Detroit in 1979, grew up in Troy, Michigan, and we moved to Oak Park, Michigan, and I've always been an entrepreneur. My dad, my mom always had their own businesses. At the age of 8 or 9, when we came, the job that my entire family had was shoveling snow in the apartment building that we lived in. And I think after that, my second job was delivering papers in Oak Park, Michigan, with my good friend Emil Israelov and Andrew Greenbaum, back in the hood as we call it. And growing up in Oak Park was great, and then we moved to West Bloomfield, went to Farmington High School. And when I was 16, I decided that I was going to be pursuing two avenues in my career, either law or accounting. And one day, a friend of mine and I decided that we're going to walk up and down one of the major roads here, Orchard Lake Road. Walked into every office building, either into law offices or accounting offices. And everybody told us there were no opportunities, no jobs. I was primarily just looking for a file clerk. Magically, probably not coincidentally, I entered the last office of a CPA firm back in those days, Murrah, Sheplo, Weinstein. And fortunately enough, the filing clerk that day either got fired or quit, and they offered me the job on the spot. So my road starts off once again working at a CPA firm as a file clerk. And I learned a lot of things. That is actually when I decided that I was going to become an accounting major. Graduated North Farmington High School and got my degree in accounting at State University in 1993. Utilizing my accounting education, my ability to speak Russian, I was hired by KP and Harley back in the day. Started off in the audit department in KPMG, spending several years in audit. One of my friends actually was a recruiting firm. At that point, I didn't know what recruiting did. And I decided that I was going to leave the world of public accounting, capitalize, by the way, I get my nickname Arty G from my DJ days. I had a DJ company from approximately 17 till the age of 9. And I entered the world of recruiting. And that was in 1996. So I worked in a major national recruiting firm, then went to a smaller firm. In June of 1998, I started Global Recruiter. So throughout my 20 years experience as a recruiter and career coach, having placed professionals with major CPA firms, KPMG, PwC, Young, Price Waterhouse, Fortune 500 companies, GM, Chrysler, Ford Motor, and many other organizations in the accounting, Fortune 500, SEC, privately held companies. I discovered a number of different things in the course of working with thousands of professionals, 20 plus years that I've been doing this. One of the first things that one of my managers, when I worked in corporate recruiting, told me and taught me was that I was not going to be able to help everybody. It didn't necessarily register with me quite then. Definitely registered with me not shortly thereafter. Because as a recruiter, when a company reaches out to you to have them help you find individuals for a role, you're going to talk to and see hundreds, not thousands of resumes for that one individual, get an offer and get hired by that company. And again, in the 20 years that I've been doing this, what I've discovered is most professionals don't have a clear career path, not have a clear vision of what they want to be doing. So I put together 8 critical mistakes throughout my 20 plus years of recruiting and coaching that most job seekers do, most career professionals do. Let's face it, looking for a job, thinking about your career is a lot like running in the wilderness. There's no clarity, you're feeling lost, yet you're looking for a 6-figure opportunity, sometimes a 7-figure opportunity. So how do you get there? So I've developed an 8-step system that makes the job search process as simple and as effective as possible, that reveals your career alignment. And out of this 8-step process, first place that we work on and focus in when we're working with any job seeker client, what we call the career physical. It's origin. It's where everything begins. However, to uncover all of that information that's primarily stored in your brain, you have to, what is called, Peter Lefkowitz taught me this, peel away the layers. It's like layers of an onion. The more you peel, the more you cry, obviously, because you fruit of the situation. So there are 4 key areas that we analyze. That is the beginning, not only per se a proper job search, really fully understand who you are as an individual and as a professional, and what your purpose is, defining the career, the organizations, companies that you're hopefully working with and for. 4 key areas are your strengths. And we dive into strengths in a very strategic and specific way, where we analyze your drivers, your passengers, and the fuel. Talk a lot about that when we go through the actual process, which is this 8-step process, but the career physical, first place that we start. Step 2 is what you value. We have to uncover what your values are. Connection that you have with people. Self-actualization. Curiosity. Transparency. Honesty, wellness, and creativity. Step 3 is the skills that you enjoy. Most people, unfortunately, focus on skills without really diving into what is it that you really enjoy. And so what are your motivation skills? What are your burnout and low priority skills? Then we come up with how you're wired. Investigative component. The thinkers versus the artistic, the creators, in formulating your job search strategy. So the result becomes a summary that will increase awareness of your career needs, will enable you to evaluate the best career positions, job titles, industry, companies, etc. So in this 20 years of being in coaching, this is the methodology that we have come up with that I am hoping to enlighten, empower, and share with as many professionals as possible, because everyone has value. Everyone has an asset. And what is unfortunate is that a lot of people, job seekers primarily, is they underestimate themselves. They don't know what that value is. Our clients how to think of themselves as a product. That when it comes time to the interview, sell yourself, you market yourself. If anybody has any questions, anything that you'd like to comment, I'd love to hear coming in, where you're coming in from, anything that you'd like to share with me. Feel free to make a comment. I'll take a little pause. Anybody? My first podcast, so just kind of bear with me a little bit. 9 listeners. Coming in, where are you coming in from? Todd Wolf is in the house. What up, Todd? Thank you very much for joining us. So, continuing on, what I want to focus on in the job search process is a number of other steps that we will be talking about as well, and coaching many of our clients. After we go through physical, that sets up the game plan, everything else that is composed of a proper job search strategy. And the other 7 components involve, obviously, your resume. And it's not just a resume that is going to be properly formatted, it's going to be a resume that's focusing on value and your attributes and accomplishments. That when a hiring manager looking at that resume, 10 or 15 seconds or less, they're going to very quickly identify, have some sort of an impression, whether you're someone they should pick up the phone and talk to, or they're going to set you aside, probably not call you, or maybe talk later. Next is your social media presence. Not stress that enough, especially in today's day and age. The first thing anyone that's going to do a resume is going to Google you. Go on your LinkedIn profile, likely on your Facebook profile. You want to make sure that those two profiles, at the very least, are somewhat in sync. You don't want to be, walking around sitting on a horse without a shirt on your Facebook page and have a totally different image on your LinkedIn. So social media, again, I cannot stress this enough, not only in terms of the presence that is presenting you, but the utilization of social media in today's job search world. A lot of people, when they come to us, whether I'm recruiting for a role or whether it's somebody that's a job seeker and with their job search, first place that I look at, first anywhere that anyone is going to look at is resume. Virtually 99% of most job seekers do not have a resume that is clear and concise, value, basically is selling themselves. Above and beyond that, obviously, the social media. Moving on through the steps in the job search, then go into what we call the identification of the job titles, the roles, interests, passions that you as a job seeker have, in order to identify opportunity here that you truly and honestly want to have. So part of the career physical is uncovering all of that information. In fact, that's where all of that information is covered. So from there, we are able to put together, again, the job search strategy, going to include industries you are focusing on, you are passionate about. Companies within those industries you're going to want to work at. Identifying the hiring managers, decision makers at those organizations. 99% of job seekers focus on what everybody does, for the most part, in their job search. Go to a job board, start applying. They post a resume online, and they sit and wait and hope somebody's going to call them. They contact a recruiter. I happen to be one of them. Again, we're not able to help everybody. The recruiter is focusing primarily on the candidate that is the closest and best fit job. So what happens to 75%, if not 90%, of those professionals? Probably never get called, never even get a response from the recruiter. So the identification of hiring manager is very important. Not focusing on job boards, also important. 70% of opportunities that are in the job market are not advertised. So once we have your career physical, There's clarity. You know exactly what you're going to be focusing on. Have your resume. Have your social media presence. Now have a list of industry hiring managers at those companies that want them to know about you. Then we move next step out to them. For a lot of people, very nervous, scared. First question is, well, how do I reach out to them? I don't even know them. It's okay. That's the beautiful thing about social media. You don't have to know somebody. Reach out to them. You have to know your worth, what your value is, so that when you are presenting to them, you've done your homework on the company as well. Especially if a company is publicly traded, they have a lot of valuable information, financial statements, and a lot of other public information that's available for you to do your homework and research. That when you reach out to that person, you're able to present them what value you can offer, how you can help that organization deal with problems that they may have. So that is how the networking phase of the job search process takes place. Our clients, candidates, how to go about doing that. Because you're going to uncover opportunities that are not posted. Oftentimes, what happens, you actually create an opportunity. The company is going that doesn't even exist because they love you. They want to have you on board. They understand yourself. You've packaged yourself. You've branded yourself in such a way, they are going to an opportunity. Next, interview stage. Probably one of the biggest areas, if not the biggest area, where most professionals fail. Number one reason most professionals fail interview. They haven't done their homework. Just to give you an example. Just to give you an idea. I'm working with a client right now who happens to be and had her first interview today, actually at 10 a.m. Yesterday, spent about an hour coaching her ready for that interview. One of the astounding things that she realized and that we coached her on was, well, who is she? So if you get a call from an HR person and they want to interview you, take a pause, ask them, obviously, when you're going to be interviewed. Get a very clear description of what the role is. Power and the beauty of it. Go and research and connect with them. You can also find out many other individuals at that company, as well as individuals that no longer work at that company. So that is how the networking process starts.
Question from our Hey Arty G, R from PH. How will you know when you're ready?
Very good question. So we have a professional from the Philippines, and the question is, how do you know when you're ready to move on from your current role? Excellent question. Typically, 9.9 times out of 10, you're at an organization, been there for an X period of time, based on the hierarchy of that organization. If you feel that you have tapped out in terms of your growth, there is no more advancement opportunities up or laterally, then most likely it's time to move on. And that actually happens very often. Unfortunately, not often enough when individuals are working at smaller organizations. Probably depends on the size of the organization. 100 people. Oftentimes, it's very common in family-owned organizations where, as hard as you're going to work, much as you're going to bust your ass, you're not going to go anywhere. And that's just the nature of the beast in that situation. So you have to ask yourself, okay, I'm XYZ old, whether I'm married, I have kids, etc. Of course, there's going to be. You have to prepare yourself for that. But if you are just thinking about that today and you haven't thought about it a year ago or 2 years ago, obviously you're a little behind the eight ball, but it's best to ball rolling and start working on that job search strategy. The other questions rolling in.
Albert, LA.
What up, Albert?
Wondering what is the number one tip for people?
Number one tip for individuals that are entering job search or the job market job search. I would have to say that to have clarity. And it actually goes back to the career system. So that's where it all begins. What happens a lot of times with individuals that have been at a company for 5, 10, 15 years, the job searching changed in 2008. Flipped upside down since, the Great Recession or Depression? Recession. Especially with the internet and social media and how people communicate. Job search has changed dramatically over the years. And it gets, for some people, it gets more and more complicated every year if they have not changed jobs in quite some time, or actually quite the opposite. If you are a job hopper, whether by design, by default, job searching, working properly in a job search, oftentimes can be very difficult and complex. Most employers are asking you, why are you switching jobs as often as you are? All of these things need to be evaluated before you even enter the job search world. So many things to cover and so many things to analyze. You want to make sure you have everything down. Again, that's why we call it a job search strategy. And I always give people the analogy, before a basketball team goes on the court, plays their opponent, they analyze that team, know what they have to do. Each and every player has their role. They know what they need to do to win the game. Job seeker must do that if they are looking to be professional. Unfortunately, a lot of individuals are only looking for a pay. They're not thinking about a career. Fall into multiple different traps that are very, very difficult to get out of. The other questions?
Yes. Grant Comley, right in Michigan. What are the key networking functions to attend?
Oh my gosh. Grant, there's two. You know, one of the things that we coach our job seekers, our clients, to really define what your niche is, what your specialty area is. Based on that, that's how you should network. A lot of people, like one of my good friends, Terry Dean, taught me this a while back ago, that to go and network just for the purpose of socializing with no specific outcome to come out of that networking event serves you absolutely no purpose. So, for example, if you're manufacturing engineer or a director of operations, you're going to be going to events that have everything and anything to do with your industry. And there's a ton of networking events for people in all industries, various specialties, whether you're a PA, a tax professional, an auditor, in the construction, real estate arena. It really doesn't matter what that is. Every industry has a plethora of networking events. Search them and find out what that is. The other questions?
Melody from Philadelphia asked, can I show experience if I don't have direct? I think praise from a.
Oftentimes, that's actually a very good question. Oftentimes, again, this goes back to the career physical. More often than not, we uncover a lot of skills you don't even realize that you have or had. Let me speak of I'll give you an analogy or an example. If you are being a director of manufacturing opportunity or a controllership opportunity, should not be thinking about the role that you're necessarily currently in as it relates to your job search process and the next career that you're going to cover. Very important to think of yourself holistic and organic type of a perspective. Why when we go through the career, start all the way. So during that process, up to first job, out of college, throughout your career, you actually are able very often to uncover a lot of skills. They're somewhat in your brain and there's something about them, or maybe you don't think they have much value, but your entire life, those experiences have a lot of value. One of our clients came from Eastern Europe about 2 years ago. She speaks 3 or 4 different languages. Currently, she's a car sales professional. And during the career physical process, and I was asking her, well, what is her passion? And her name is Lana. So I would ask her, Lana, what is your passion? When you were growing up, what did you enjoy? Enjoyed reading. And she enjoyed learning different languages and being multilingual, trilingual, quadruple language obviously is a very valuable skill set. So I had asked her, well, how have you utilized this skill set, passion that you have in the current role that you're in, selling cars? Really wasn't able to answer that question as thoroughly as I was hoping. We also, during this process, uncovered an entire industry, which is the translation industry, I never even thought of. So during the course of now probably 4 or 5 months, become a member of the American Translations, started her own translation company. Her confidence in her role currently as a sales professional selling cars, where she's attracting many more customers, especially international customers that speak various languages, that she's advertising, and she's learned to promote herself and how to brand herself better. Even though she may be doing the same volume or a little bit more volume in terms of closing sales, that confidence has given her the ability to actually have a larger margin on her sales. And it's been an amazing transformation for somebody like her. So, again, I hate repeating this, but the career physical and analyzing your strengths, what you value, skills that you enjoy. Unfortunately, a lot of people, why they hate Mondays, they're not going to work in utilizing the skills that they enjoy. The innate, what I call superpowers, we're all born with. So all of that affects how we're all wired. And when you're at a company for an extended period of time, doing the same thing over and over, I'm a robot. You're not thinking about anything else. Happy to get that paycheck, go home. That's your life. Pressed, feel unappreciated, undervalued, surprisingly underpaid. So their own self-worth and their own value. Any other questions? Coming up with questions.
Phone in question. Got a few minutes ago.
Oh, wow. Super.
Wants to know what 24 years old, working in an audit position, what the career.
Well, typically in a public accounting firm, there's several factors. One, depends on the size of the organization. Obviously, there are firms, national firms, market firms, local metropolitan firms, and smaller mom and pop firms. So the majority of that career progression really depends on the size of the organization. And most of those organizations have a very clear career path that your auditor, a 1.5 to 2 year auditor, beyond. Unless, if you're already working at that firm, your performance not allowing you to advance into that senior level role, or oftentimes, what I've experienced, that you really don't enjoy public accounting. you really don't enjoy the world of auditing. So it comes back to what we talked a little bit about earlier. You haven't found your passion. You may know your strengths, but you probably don't. You may know your value, probably don't. So you are probably not the correct position that you were set out to be. Next, we got an email asking me a pretty interesting question. That question is, how do you know whether you're not getting paid what you're worth? Love those questions. Several factors. Number one, a lot of companies, much as you may think they value you, not really valuing you. Oftentimes, you're getting advantage of and are so entrapped with that job, because obviously it's a men, you're not thinking about many other things that obviously you can go online and do some research, find out what a particular role, certain level, certain industry is paying, but oftentimes it's a case by case, individual by individual experience. One of the luxuries that I have, being coaching for as long as I can look at a resume very and probably within a couple $1,000 tell you what your value is, especially in the job market. There is absolutely no reason anybody on planet Earth, especially in the United States, economy at its best is probably the best, with the unemployment being so low. There's millions of jobs out there. Companies are dying for people. Whether it's Metro Detroit, whether it's Atlanta, Florida, any major market, companies need. But if you're not on that path, you haven't uncovered what your true value and what your. The only thing that's happening, you are devaluing yourself. And I just had a client that I worked with, great young guy, 32 years old, has worked at his company for 7 years, has a master's degree, certification, making $47,000. Average individual with his background, and he's a CPA, MST, 7 years public accounting experience. Bottom of the barrel, you should be making $55,000, probably more than that. So he engaged with myself in his job search. He actually starting his new role on December 3rd. Went from $47,000 total package about $70,000. What allowed him to do that? Not only the job market, important, but understanding value as a professional, being able to verbalize that value in an interview. Tell himself that when that interview was over, that organization, those hiring managers, knew that individual. Absolutely no way in this job market that anyone should be underemployed, unemployed, any of those situations that people are upset about. I'm in a lot of groups. I'm shocked on a daily basis, how many job seekers are searching opportunity jobs per se for 5 weeks, 10 weeks, months, 4 months, 7 months. It's absolutely crazy. Number one reason that typically happens with 99% of job seekers don't have a strategy. They're not clear on what they want. They may think that they have a very good idea of that. You're in the category of those individuals that have been searching and searching. This is how I test. It's kind of like a litmus test that I ask when I'm working with clients. That is, how many companies have your resume? How many companies have your resume? 100. How many HR interviews? 30. How many interviews have you had with hiring manager? 10. How many offers have you had? 2. Why haven't you accepted those offers? They lowballed me. I was making X months ago, and the company is offering me $20,000 less. I'm not able to take that type of an expenses, things of that nature. But if 100 companies have your resume, had 10 office interviews with hiring managers, got 2 offers, very lopsided equation. Balance that out. That happens when you have a proper job. Questions?
Yeah. Candidate is not from the account.
Okay, we don't.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
So this candidate wants to know, they don't want to leave their company. However, they've been doing a job that one of their colleagues is responsible to do, and they want to advance towards that position.
Oh, I love that.
So, how should they approach their hiring manager and their superior and that person's superior?
Let me understand. So they're working at a company. They're interested in a role that somebody else or a higher level individual.
It's not performing to the role's expectation.
I see. Okay. Woo. Oftentimes, actually, that happens at larger organizations. I would bet to say that the individual in that role that is not performing to the expectations for a long time, and they can get away not doing all of the responsibilities. But typically somewhere that has an effect at the bottom line of the organization. And so I would recommend for that individual that probably is very upset because they know that they can step up to the plate and take a burden.
Sounds like she's carrying all the...
Doing the work.
She's doing the work.
She's
supervisor.
She's doing the work. Okay, so she's doing the work. Supervisor's probably getting recognized for that. Their management thinks that the supervisor is actually doing that, person, I don't want to say at the bottom, but below them that is actually carrying the weight. Oof. In fact, actually, I have a client that I'm working with right now that is experiencing the exact same thing. So what I've shared with this client is it's a very touchy-feely situation. You don't necessarily want to take off your supervisor. That may have a negative effect. You don't want to lose your job. So you have to be very careful in how you approach that. My advice to that individual is several things. Number one, if there are other opportunities, similar opportunities within the organization in different departments. That would be number one. Number two, engage in a job search. This actually happens very often. I've had several situations like this, several professionals where started on the job search process and we actually got offers from other companies. When they went in to put in their notice, what happened to them? Their company rolled out the red carpet. Now, in most cases, I do not recommend taking a counteroffer. But when counteroffers come in the size increase, this is the honest truth. I've had two professionals within the last 6 months that have gotten raises and promotions. In fact, one of the promotions was of an individual who the company gave $150,000 increase on a base salary alone, plus benefits, perks, stock options, etc. And the same day that that individual got a bump up in that compensation, the director that was at the organization, this individual that got that offer got promoted to the director role. Because the company told them that this individual is valuable for them to have them leave because they invested so much money. And that director, for various reasons, wherever they are in life in terms of age, things of that nature, was let go of that day. I don't think it was that big of a deal, because he was probably close to retirement and probably took an early retirement. But it happens. It actually happens. And I've had two situations like that this past year. A lot of times what people don't do, they don't even realize of doing this. They're not looking for opportunities internally within, especially if you've been at a company for a period of time. That organization most likely is not going to want to lose you. Now, it's going to be in your best interest to what the job market is. Just to have your feet to the ground and make sure you're in, so to speak. But never hurts to doing multiple things at the same time, because you'd be very, very surprised as to what the outcome may be. So I just want to go back to beginning. And the reason why I started this podcast, and we're going to be doing this every Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time, the art of career growth. As a recruiter and career coach, 20 years of experience, I want to be able to help as many people as possible. Whether you're an international professional looking for opportunities, you're already an international professional and you're here on an L1 or an 8, you're a Canadian citizen, Mexican citizen, whether you're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, ownership of your own debt. No one else is going to do it. So you have to decide you're going to do that. That's what we do. We have an 8-step job search process. Again, let's face it. Job search is like running around in the forest. You get lost. It's going to hit the fan, and you're going to go hungry. In order to avoid that, make an investment. Don't be afraid of not having all your answers to all your questions, because it's all about your consciousness, all about your mindset. If you are focused,
at 30 seconds,
and you are looking for career growth and career advancement, make that leap. The worst thing that's going to happen, exactly where you're at. Now, if you want to get a hold of us, of myself, it's Arthur at globalcareeradvisors.com. Visit the website, globalcareeradvisors.com.